Okay, then let's get to our speaker, who I'm very happy to announce. Our speaker is Linda Watanabe McFERRIN. She's a novelist, she's a poet, she's a travel writer. She's made numerous contributions to anthologies and magazines and newspapers. She's one of the, I don't know, founders of Left Coast Writers, and has won lots of critical reviews and awards, too many to mention, but I will refer you to our website that gives some more information, and to her website, which is under her name. And I met her through a couple of workshops, weekend workshops she did at the Mendocino Art Center. She's a wonderful teacher. I'm a huge fan. I'm delighted to introduce her. Linda, go right ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. And I just want to thank you and Doug for setting this up. This is really exciting for me. The whole community, the Mendocino Writers, has been, I was introduced to them through the Mendocino, the art center there, and two people that I knew there. And it's been really that's how I met you, Susan. And it's been really wonderful connecting up with this group of writers, a very productive group of writers. So I was asked to come up with a workshop, something that I thought might be useful to you all. And as I write across genres, so I'm calling this a trans-genre talk, because it really applies to just about everything. And my background is in all of those things. So I wanted to pick something. I want to ask, first of all, by show of hands, how many of you here are poets? Okay, we have some poets. How many of you are long and short fiction writers? Okay, we have some of you. And how many of you are journalists? Okay, essayists? All of the above?
Really, all the above.
Okay, so I think that's wonderful. I actually think that a lot of things that you learn in one genre kind of can cross to another genre. I'm all about crossing boundaries and as many things as possible, because I think that's where you get a little frisson of energy and a lot of excitement. And sometimes using something from one genre and moving it into another makes the writing even more exciting. I think we've all seen the way we're taking fiction and infusing it with nonfiction, and vice versa, using fiction techniques in what used to be a very drab kind of writing, very straightforward journalism, and it's really changing it up and making things very, very interesting. So, and let's always put in a little bit of poetry. So I'm excited about doing this for all of you. So my workshop, what are my talk is writing for readers. So I hope everybody here knows what the distinction is. So I'm going to share it a little bit. There's different kind of writing, and I like to think of it as community, communication, and communion. So that's sort of backwards, but the first thing is communion. And that's when you're writing in your journal and you're sort of going into yourself. How many write in their journals? How many people journal? I journal heavily. So I started writing through journaling. You're sort of delving in and digging into what's real for you and putting it on the page. Then it doesn't matter. You're not editing anything. It's just a data dump, and it's a lot of information, and it's how you sort through things. It's very personal, the journal. Then there's communication, when you're actually writing for someone else. That's the reader. And if you're successful, and you may be successful with that, you might not be successful with it. But if you are successful and people are loving what you write, then you start to have an influence on community. And I think that's the most powerful way to write. I do think that the difference between communion, when you're writing for yourself, and writing to communicate are two really different things, because when you're writing for readers, you always have to imagine the reader. It's not just about you. And once you have to imagine the other, you engage in what I would call a dance with somebody else. And so you're giving them cues. You're on a date with the person while you're with your book or with whatever it is that you're writing. You have to entice them in. You have to entertain them. You have to be a good host. So it's a very different kind of writing if you're writing for readers. When you're writing for yourself, that's a whole different thing. You can put anything that you want in the page, on the page. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's important for writing for readers. I think one of the things that's really important is that you invite the reader in a way that they want to read the entire story. As a journalist, at one point, I realized we all knew, and as a judge for competitions and things, I found out that it's so important to have, and everybody who edits or does anything knows that the opening lines are key. What is your opening? How many of you think about your openings when you're writing? Those first lines are so important. They're what makes the reader decide whether or not they want to leave space in their brain for your story. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to read this? We have limited disk space up here, and I don't know about all of you, but my space is getting smaller and smaller. And so when you're looking at something, you're reading that first line and saying, do I want to like waste the space and the time for this particular piece? So that first line becomes absolutely critical. Also, what's really, really important is the close of a piece. So when you're writing for readers, the close is super important too. That's where you deliver. The opening is where you promise. Better be a nice promise. And then the close is where you deliver. Has anybody ever not delivered in a piece?
Of course.
Oh, yes, honest people. I did not deliver in a piece. So there was a delivery expected. When you create this opening, the reader wants you to give them the close that they want, that they expect, and they don't want something that's going to let them down. So in one of my books, which was, it was published by a wonderful publisher and it sold, but it didn't sell as well as I wanted it to sell. And I read one of the reviews and I realized I didn't deliver. I had delivered in the previous chapter, the penultimate chapter. And then I went and screwed it up because I wanted it to be interesting. And I gave a little coda to it that completely undid the delivery. And in one of the reviews, I actually got a review that said, I hated the way that book ended. And I realized, oh my goodness, I should have ended it in the previous chapter, but I wanted to be clever. I wrote that last chapter for me and not for the reader because I wanted it to be a bit more artsy. So the book is Dead Love. If anybody wants to see what not to do, just buy the book and you'll find out what you shouldn't do at the end of your book. So that delivery at the end is really, really important. So the opening lines are the most important portion of your book. And I always find that, or your essay, especially for short essays, they're really, really important. You want to get in and get out. There's a structure. Now, I'm not making this up. I've been a judge, and some of you may have been judges on things before, and I've also edited a lot. Editors and experienced writers know they'll look more, what's the lead? What's the story goal? So that's the opening. Who knows what a story goal is? This is really important to readers. Really, really important. Anybody? The story goal is where you set up basically in one line. Maybe you go a little further, you include this area called the nut graph where you explain a little bit more about what's going to happen. But what is at stake? What is wanted? One of the things that you have to remember when you're writing for readers is to keep a lot of emotion in there. It's really important for you to clearly say what's personally at stake for the person from a heart point of view. Something meaningful. And you have to get people's attention and say the meaningful thing at the same time. So, and then at the end, you're going to deliver on that story goal, whatever that story goal is. So I'm going to read an opening from the opening from Namako, my first novel. And you'll see that it's set up so that there's something that is wrong and it's trying to be straightened out. So the first chapter is exactly 1 paragraph long. And it's the title is Naisho Secrets. And this is a book about a young girl in Japan, a middle school girl, and what she went through in Japan, being she didn't want to go there in the first place. It's basically a memoir in disguise. I wrote it when I was in grad school. So Naisho Secrets. The childhood I remember was full of secrets. Really, they were lies. For example, it was a lie that we went to Japan because my grandmother was ill. The real reason was that my father, Jean, was having an affair, and my mother, Sarah, had threatened to leave him. Sarah's laughing red mouth and her courage were also a lie. She was always afraid that someone would die, something that happened to her again and again. For a while, almost every word that came out of my mouth was a lie. Perhaps this was because that is what I saw all around me. But I lied so well that nobody knew. So my lies became secrets too. So this is a book about secrets that are kept and lies. And it's, I didn't have that chapter to begin with. I showed it to somebody who was an editor at the time when I was shopping it around. And he told me, you need a better beginning. So I just wrote this one short little paragraph, and it made the difference between whether the book sold or not, because it has something in it, and that is a sense of mystery, and it's provocative, and a sense of drama. And it's really, really important when you're writing for readers that you clearly point out what the mysteries are, and you set it up, and that there is some drama. So I have one of the things that I like to do with writers is to give them some ideas on some of the bells and whistles that go into writing a wonderful opening. They're the bells and whistles of writing in general. But if you use these in your opening, you'll have a great opening. And the more, oddly, the more you can cram in there, the better your opening will be. So these are some of the things that you want to have in the opening. Pick one, and you're going to get to. One of them is theme. Another is strategy, or theme and strategy, what your point is in this book. Characters or viewpoints. If you can create a character and a viewpoint in the opening line, if you include that, then it's probably going to be a great opening line. An element of plot, something that suggests what's going to be happening. A beautiful setting, a beautiful time, a beautiful place, something that brings somebody into the story. If you have a gorgeous voice or style, you can use that. I mean, if you're poetic or you're snappy and sharp or clever or caustic or cynical, those things actually work really well in an opening because people will fall in love with the voice and they'll want to read more. Action. Action in a lead is a wonderful thing. Just a line of action, conflict, or suspense as an opening line. Dialogue. You can have a dialogue lead. So a line of dialogue that's provocative can pull somebody into a story like nobody's business. So ideally, you have a lead that has some kind of promise in it. Now, I think it would be fun. I said there were going to be some exercises here. If you all either wrote a lead that you've already written down before, or if you all wrote a lead that had one of those things in it, and one or more. And so I'm going to read an example. Would you like some examples? Okay, so here's one of my leads, and this one's from I do this series called the Wandering series. This is from Wandering in Bali, and the story, my story in it, it's a collection of stories by different writers that had traveled to Bali together. This story is called Bali Belly on the Bukit and the Zombie Apocalypse. So true story. So the opening is, I blame myself for introducing the zombie into the circle of elegant guests gathered at the Villa Cahaya. That is a provocative lead. First of all, you've got a zombie, you have a mystery, you have some blame going there. Something bad is going to be happening here. And you have a beautiful setting. You have a villa. So that lead has a lot of potential. So I want you all to write, oh, and I'll read the close to you because you're also going to write a close. So the close is, and this is also that you'll provoke the reader to want to read the story. The close is, the zombie had walked among them, and they all, every last one of them, bought the book. So this is the last story in the book. So now I'm going to give you a few minutes. Let's give you 10 minutes. Is that too long, guys? Is 5 better to write a lead and a close? So you want 10 minutes or 5? 5 minutes, write a lead and a close. You can use one that you've already written if you like.
You want us to put it in chat?
No, well, you can, but you're going to have to read it because we want to all hear them. Okay, I'm just going to talk on here. I don't know if can everyone hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Okay, so one of the things that we do when we're writing, because we are just in our own heads and we're not really thinking about the reader, you're not thinking about the other person there, is you can be really boring on the page. One of the best ways to actually learn to write is to go to a bar and talk to people about whatever it is you're going to write about. And if you use your opening and you tell them what it's about and they look away and start talking to somebody else, which is really can happen, then you know that you're being boring. On the page, unfortunately, nobody turns around and looks the other way and starts talking to somebody else. So when I would get together with a bunch of travel writers, often after a trip, we'd all get together, or I'd get together with others. And there's always a contest on who can hold everybody's attention. And so people would be throwing these leads out one after another to what they saw, like, oh, I actually came across a dragon when I was on this particular island. And then, oh, people are interested there. And then somebody else will say, yeah, but there's something actually larger than those dragons on this island. And then all of a sudden, everybody turns that way. So it's this contest on who can hold people's attention with the better lead or the better opening to a story. So one of the things that I do a lot is I just write leads, lead, close, 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 close. And I just save them. This is the lead, this is the close. And I have a whole page that's just leads and closes, because then I know at some point I'm going to write the story. But if I know how it begins and I know how it ends, well, the story will kind of write itself in the middle. So if you write those two pieces first, you actually have finished your story, even though you really haven't. It seems like you finished your story. And it's a great way to start anything is right. And it doesn't, often it doesn't end up being the final lead or the final close. It's just a way for you to get into it and make it exciting and think about how to make it exciting for others. So how about we hear some of those leads and closes? Anybody want to read theirs? Raise a hand. Okay. Windflower, what a pretty name.
Thank you. So I'll read a lead. I'm a poet, so it's a little different. But this is from a poem that I wrote, and it is one of my favorite leads. So I thought I would read it, but I did write a close that I've never used. So my lead is, beneath my skin, the shallows of New England live.
Oh, beautiful. I mean, you have a sense of place. You have a very personal interaction. You're talking about shadows. There's a mystery there. That's a wonderful, that pulls us right in.
thing, beneath my skin, it was the shallows of New England.
Oh, the shallows, also intriguing. It's very intriguing. It's very personal. And I love the mention of New England in it. What, do you have a close to the poem?
This is, oh, different to this particular poem? Oh, it did have a close. I'd have to go get it.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, I just
It's a
wrote,
really,
I could do that, but it's okay. I didn't know, I was just, so you were saying for one piece, the lead and the-
opening. Yeah, I would love to read that poem. That makes me, did anybody else feel that way? You just want to, I would love to read that
I
poem.
have seen that. So I can do, I don't want to spend too much time on me. I do have a close to the poem. So
Well, you know what? Send it to me. I'll give everybody my
I'll send you
Gmail.
the poem. Okay.
Send it afterwards.
Thank
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have a lead that they would like to read? Yes, Michelle. I know you write for publications, so you're probably an expert at writing leads and kickers, as they call it sometimes.
Well, I don't know about that. Anyway, this is the first two lines of my memoir. The day before Joe died, we drove to the prison. 3 women, related by blood, but separated by decades of emotional turmoil.
Okay, that could be a really good lead. I would like to know where the prison is instead of just the prison, maybe the name of a prison or something that would make it more real and make us feel like we're more in it. And if the women are different in some way, or they have issues, maybe introduce some of that tension into in the beginning of it. And if those issues are going to be something, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to set up as much conflict, tension, so that the reader can't ignore it. They're like, just, well, what happens next? Well, what does that mean? So you're basically dropping one shoe, and with the suggestion that there's another one just as interesting that's going to follow somewhere along the way. Does that? So, and that can make the difference. That alone, because editors look for this, that alone can make the difference between whether your novel is read or passed over. They don't give it a lot of time. I'm telling you, they just read that first line. The publishers, the agents, they read those first couple of lines and they know this person knows what they're doing. This is what you do. They front loaded a lot of material. They are pulling me into this story because you're giving it your all on that. You're banging it out in that first line.
Okay.
Where was the prison?
Desert Springs. It's in the next, it's like a few sentences down, but obviously it needs to be brought up forward.
Yeah. You move those, you might say in the heat, whatever you want to do to make it more intense in that first line. You don't want to,
Yeah.
you can't be, it's got to be packed. Okay.
The close for that piece is, this is, I'm not 100% done, but anyway, at this point, the close is, her pacemaker failed, I felt nothing.
Okay, her pacemaker failed. I don't know, because if I have a, you need to introduce me to where that.
Well, I could give you more of the paragraph, but those are just the last 2 lines. I thought you just wanted the first 2 and the last.
No, that's fine. That's fine. The pacemaker failing is pretty powerful, but does it deliver emotionally if you feel nothing? Just a question. I think you might want to have some sort of closure there.
Okay, how about my birth mother passed away in mid-2020. Her pacemaker failed. I felt nothing.
That might be a better lead, and then find out why that happened. I don't know. I might want to move that up to the lead because that's a mystery. So you're leaving your reader with a mystery. Anyway, that's just good to practice and work on that.
Okay.
Who else? Thank you, Michelle. Earlene, you were going to read something?
Yeah. Crystal's 11-year-old heart pounded in rhythm with tires on the Mendocino County Road, wondering why her parents were dropping her with a grandmother she'd never met, and how she would ever return to the life she both loved and feared.
Okay, maybe too long. I tighten it up a little bit. It's a good lead though. You've shoehorned a hell of a lot of information into that one
Yeah.
line. You might just say, what's her name? Crystal?
Yeah.
Crystal's 11-year-old heart pounded as they drove along, and I give a place in fear, period. And then it's called a 1-2 punch. And then you can, in the second line, add whatever. She was frightened. That's enough in a lead.
Okay.
And then the second line is like, she was wondering about this, she was wondering about that, because
Okay.
you just want them to go to the next. And if you put too much of the first, they're going to get sort of confused. So you just pack it with the fear and the place, or whatever's weird. Is it a weird car? You know, whatever is going on that's strange there.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
really have to think, it's almost like writing poetry. You have to think about each line and what you're actually, where you're putting things, so that the reader will pick up those cues, whatever the cues are.
Okay.
Let's do a couple more, because I want to talk about a few more things. Lou. I can't hear you. Lou, you have to.
I unmuted myself. I got to get back to the document. So this is an opening to a novel I wrote. Oops, lost it again. Stand by. I should do it from the chat. I just put it in the chat. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Here we are. A Bebbage Stafari, lost in thought, stood at the window of her son's third-floor apartment overlooking Sediskilo traffic circle. Shiny black Mercedes, dusty Land Rovers, and a little blue and white Peugeot taxis merged briefly, then went off on their own ways out of Sediskilo to the rest of Addis Ababa, to the rest of Ethiopia, to the rest of the world.
Okay. I like this because it lets us know there's something. First of all, the setting is beautiful, but it does illustrate something. She's standing and looking. I like the circle of Peugeots. How is she feeling?
Lost in thought.
But about what? I mean, it's the beginning of your novel. What's going to happen and how is she feeling?
It's curious that actually this sentence is actually the opening to the last chapter of the book also.
But what is she feeling? What's going to happen? What are you going to suggest to the reader?
Well, the second paragraph is soon her granddaughter, Berhanish, will be coming home from school. She was 14, growing fast, faster than a Bebbage approved. Addis was nothing like Yetno, the small village where a Bebbage grew up. Berhanish never had to carry water from the stream. She had indoor plumbing, even a sit-down toilet. A Bebbage never saw a sit-down toilet until she was 14. To this day, she still prefers the concrete squatter next to the white porcelain thing that everyone else used.
Okay, so I would want in that very first line that she felt that she was in a strange place, or that she lost in thought things were so different, or something about her emotional state being, what's going on for her, what's the problem, do you guys get what I'm talking about here? We need to be pulled into the emotion of the story. So that would be the suggestion. And I think that it's in there. You just have to move it up. Don't hide something. That first line has to be really, you cut yourself open, you cut your character open, and you go, look, this is what's happening here. And then you'll pull people in. You don't want to play it like sort of cool with the reader. You want to grab them and pull them in. So it's beautiful, but save your beauty for a few lines in. First get them, and then deliver with the beauty of the lines. Does that make sense?
Yep, add some emotion to it.
Yeah, Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to do one more because I want to talk about a couple of other things. Karina.
Okay. The Hobbit castle, covered in mist and tropical flowers high in the Andes, was made for spiritual tourists taking ayahuasca. But for us, this was no vacation. We dodged military police checkpoints on the way up the mountain from Medellin, Colombia. The pandemic quarantine so far had been terrifying, and we were pretty much stranded.
Ooh, is that one sentence? Is there like a colon there? That's like,
There's,
this was no,
yeah,
are you tricking us by putting a colon in and making a little bit
no,
longer?
that's 2 sentences. I couldn't do that.
Okay, you might want to put a colon in there. You might want to shorten it and tighten it up because it's a little bit long, but
Yeah.
it's got a lot of excitement in it. I would say that you should probably, for sense of place, tell us what kind of flowers they are, so we feel like it's real and not being, so we're actually feeling like we're there. So they're just, you want to really make sure that everything, every little piece is working tightly in that first sentence. So that's the message that I want to give to you all about this. Work these pieces really, really tightly. You'll have my email address, and I'll give you a list of the things that you want to like shoehorn into that first sentence. But I want to talk about a couple more things. I also mentioned closes. And the types of closes, there are actually types of closes to your story. And there are things like the antenna close. Do you know what an antenna close is? It's a close that suggests that there's more beyond the story, like the shark was still out there. I mean, something that, and this is a very popular close now, where you suggest, because it also can lead to a sequel. It's where you don't seal the story up at the end tightly, which things used to be in a tight frame, but now they like to leave the ending open so that it suggests that there's more to this. It makes it more lifelike. Another close is the reversal, the change of heart, which is like the Christmas story, I guess it is, with Scrooge, where he starts out one way and then he's changed by the other, where something completely upends and is completely the opposite by the end of the story. And you show that at the end of the story. There's a summation close, often considered quite boring, but it can be interesting, where you sum up what has happened in the story. There's an ideological close where you make some sort of philosophical close about what's going on. So you sort of explain things. There is the anticlimax or the twist close, where things you thought something was going to be, you think something is going to be one way and it's going to end, and then you twist it at the end. It's just the opposite. There's what's called a gimmick close, when you use a symbol from the story and you invoke it at the end to say what happened. So like the best gimmick close I can think of is the rosebud at the end of the story of Howard Hughes. The rosebud comes up and it's like, oh, the sled, oh, it's a gimmick, it means something. Only the problem with that gimmick was nobody knew what it meant. So gimmick close is good if the gimmick actually, so now I see what this whole thing was about. So lots of different kinds of closes, and there's a whole list on what those are. And if you know what these are, you can actually use them, and they will enliven. Then you write your first and your ending, and then the rest comes in between. And there's a structure for what comes in between too. So there's a formula for things, and you've heard of formula writers. I'm going to talk a little bit about formula, good and bad. So you don't want to be what's called a hack and write strictly by formula, but you should know the formula so that you can improve on it and change it around. And there are formulas for things. I like to think of them as spells. So when you're writing, you're kind of spelling, you're creating this spell to just entrance people and pull them in. So there are certain spells that work, and they work really, really well. And my advice is try to use a spell and then work with it or change it or personalize it, but don't start from zero and with no advice and try to do something completely new. Learn what those formulas are, learn what the right, and I don't mean formula in a negative way, learn what the construction is and how to put something together. I'll give you why I say this. Say a guy walks into a bar and he wants to meet somebody, or let's do, a gal walks into a bar and it begins like that, the joke. And she walks in and she wants to meet somebody who she wants to spend some time with, who she may want to take home and sit in the in the living room or the bedroom with and spend some serious time, like hours and hours with this person, because she knows she's going to have a great time at the end of the day or the end of the night or whatever. Now, there are some really good looking people and some really odd looking people in this particular bar because it's in outer space. And she's from the planet Earth and she has two eyes, she has a nose and ears. And there are a lot of people who look like her. And then there are a few people who have like 3 heads and 6 arms. And who's she probably gonna go home with? She's probably gonna go home with another human if she wants to have a good evening. So I'm just saying that there are a million ways you can write your book, but when the reader is looking for that book, they want something they know and understand, and they don't want it to have 2 heads. So you might want to think about writing it in a way that, there's a tradition to these things. They work really well. They might be sort of formulaic. It's no surprise that people, when they read an author, they'll read that author again and again and again and again because they like how that works. So when you're starting out, don't try to write a novel with 2 heads. Try to write a novel that has 1 head and 2 wonderful arms. Look, it's really, really delivers on the love and the emotion or whatever it is you're looking for in a book. Or the reader is looking for a book. You're writing for that reader, not for what you want to do, but for what they would enjoy. So that's my story of the person walks into the bar. So you want to think about, this is going to have to deliver for that particular person, and they're going to have to feel like they didn't waste their time at the end of the day. So I think that's pretty much my time. Unless I open it up for questions. I also wanted to mention, before I open it up for questions, that there are 2 really important things in your work, and you want to have a story goal. This is writing for readers. You always have to have a story goal. What's important? What's at stake? And then and it has to be emotional. Has to have the heart. It's the heartbeat of the story. And then you have to deliver on that story goal by the end of the story goal. There are 2 story goals usually. There's a physical story goal, which is the plot, and there's an emotional story goal, which are the beats of the book. You need to have both. So, questions? Anyone? Am I running out of time, Susan? I think I'm almost out of time.
Yeah, you could, we have about 5 more minutes. Here's a
Okay.
question.
Earlene has a question.
Yeah, I listed madly all of these bells and whistles for writing openings. And are you saying that we need to do at least one? Or are you saying that all of them need to be in there? Or are we pick something and hone in on it? I didn't understand quite.
I'm saying probably try to put at least one thing in it. Actually you can make it a mystery lead. You can make it a action lead. You can make it a dialogue lead. Yes, I would pick one, but what I've discovered is if you have more than one, it's even more exciting. But just shoot for one. But I've read some leads that have them all piled up and they're just like, oh my God, I have to read this. Because if one's good, then 2's even better. So it's just, you don't need to pile them up necessarily. If you have one good thing, one strand in there that's super, super strong, that's really all you need. Yeah. Okay. But you have to have something along those lines. Okay. Remember always that you're writing, not writing because you want to write this. You're writing it because it needs to be relevant and important to other people. somebody wants to read this. So it's always you going on a date with your reader. So put on your best.
I haven't done that in about 30 years. I'm not sure how to do it, but I'll give it a go.
You have plenty of time to practice in your room where you don't have to actually go out. And this is the one where you don't have to actually go out and meet the person. You're just meeting them on the page.
Right, I understand.
Anyone else? Any other questions about this? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Are there people who want to read their closing?
Oh yeah, does anybody want to read close?
Everybody's intimidated.
Are they?
Oh,
Come on, guys. Then you'll get some feedback. Priscilla?
oh, I had an opening.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Should I read my opening?
Absolutely.
The woman stops outside the door to a house on the bluff above the wild ocean because she's not certain she wants to know what is inside.
Oh, that's good. That's good. First of all, I would never use the woman. I would give the person's name so that we're pulled in. So it's very personal. Clarissa stopped on the bluff, blah, 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 period. And then what was the second part? I would make that 2 sentences.
She's not certain she wants to know what's inside.
Yeah. She's not certain she wants to know what's inside. Or maybe make it, is she sure she doesn't want to know not inside? You see what I mean? That's a little bit more ominous. There's even more of a mystery there. Almost certain she does. Almost certain she doesn't want. You see what I mean? I'm upping the drama. So she'd be doing something she doesn't want to do. It's really important to, the problem is everybody's always telling people, don't be a drama queen. Well, my message to all of you is be a drama queen or king, because great literature is about drama and delivering it on the page, because we can't live these things because our lives would fall apart. So we like to go to the page and experience the things that you certainly don't want to have in your life. Does that make sense? We get to be wild and crazy and have things explode in our faces on the page. Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
I think Anne wants to share.
Okay.
Yes, so I wrote an opening and closing as we were sitting here, so devise both of them. So here goes. Zira's visor flashed a bright red as soon as her ship dropped out of hyperdrive and struck debris, making her vision blur and mouth go dry.
Oh.
The ending is she was all alone from here on out and she was going to make it work.
Oh, I love your close. I love your close a lot because she's in trouble at the beginning and I love that she's going to make it work. It's sort of a mirror kind of thing, but read that first line again. I would change it slightly.
Zira's vision flashed a bright red as soon as her ship dropped out of hyperdrive and struck debris, making her vision blur and her mouth go dry.
I would say Zira's ship dropped out of hyperdrive and struck debris, her vision blurred, or Zira's vision blurred, her mouth went dry, her ship, tell us that her ship struck debris and then tell us what happened to her, because then we know something bad is happening. I'd make it into 2 sentences, because right now, somebody it's almost like they're going to stumble on their, all the details. So
now, when you said to put it all in 1 sentence, so I had to kind of cram it all into 1 sentence as opposed to breaking down 2. So I would have normally put those into 2 sentences. So I believe you're right.
Yeah, and then you want to lead with her ship hit debris. I mean, that's a really big thing that happened. And maybe say, yeah, that I would put that first. And then we know she's in an accident. So, and then we can feel emotionally what's going on for her. Yeah. Nice beginning. I would read that. I'm interested. It's a space story, right?
Space story, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you're telegraphing that too. You've got a setting that is going to tell some people, yeah, I want to read this. It's about outer space. Yeah, that's a good lead.
Well, thank you so much.
So more details, Susan, for anybody, if they want, they can just write to me. You've got my email. It's just lindawatanabe.mcferrin@gmail.com. If you send me your information, I will send you the thing up on the sheet on leads and the sheet on closes, the kinds of closes that there are, and maybe a couple of other things about these formulas that we use in writing, that we all use in writing, for you to play around with.
Great. Thank you very much. So we stay, yeah, for applause, but also we stay open. So people want to just chit chat afterwards and the meeting is officially done, but thank you, Linda. It was wonderful as always.
Sure, you're welcome. Do you want me to hang out and answer questions still, or?
Sounds like, do people have questions? Sounds like people
Thank
are still
you
rolling over.
so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. It was very, very interesting. Very
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
Okay. So long, folks. It was really nice chatting with you. I hope you all get your, I wish we could learn more about the work. Some of it sounds really exciting. And I hope you all get your work out there to the readers that want to read it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.